New rule, silent but deadly Bob has to shut up. I don't care that Kevin Smith is too fat to fly on Southwest. He made Jersey Girl, and Zach and Miri make a porno. I want to know how he can afford to fly on Southwest. New rule, unemployed Americans must move to Europe. The European Union has 4 million unfilled job openings and is desperate for skilled employees. But in a pinch, they'll take Americans. True, you may have to work in a scary socialist country with free health care, but on the upside, your morbidly obese children will be a novelty. New rule, the stage show Stomp must change its name to Shut the Hell Up, I Can't Hear Myself Think. I believe I've heard this number before. Oh, yes, it was when raccoons got into my garbage. New rule, as long as they're thinking of dropping Saturday service, the post office can go ahead and just close altogether. Since about 1998, no one in America has gotten anything in the mail but catalogs, bills, Christmas cards, and anthrax. And I hate Christmas cards. At least when you get anthrax, you don't think, oh, shit, now next year I have to send them anthrax. New rule, stop asking why the killer whale killed the lady. Why do you think? He was denied tenure? Killer whales kill, hence the name killer whale. And guys, before you get any ideas, stay away from the blowfish. New rule, President Obama must quit smoking. Not for his health, just because people who quit smoking often display human anger. And I want my president so cranky he could rip Jim Bunning's eyes out. Not only should we take his smokes away, I want a car alarm going off on Pennsylvania Avenue every night until AIG gives us back our money. I want all the White House faucets to drip and Joe Biden to phone during the Bulls game. I want the kids to get bad grades and Michelle to stay out late with an old boyfriend who's going through a tough time. And finally, new rule, Christine O'Donnell has to stop saying, I'm you, in her campaign ads. It doesn't get truer the more you say it, because it's not a spell. Now, when I hear Christine O'Donnell say, I'm you, I take it personally, because I think back to how our lovemaking was so raw and powerful. It was hard to know where my body ended and hers began. But if I were you, I'd really want her to stop saying she was you. 86% of teabaggers think climate change is a hoax. That's not you. Tea partiers want to repeal the health care law. But 2/3 of Americans either like it or want it to go further. 59% of Americans support gay marriage and civil unions. The Tea Partiers support traditional gender roles where men are in charge, like Glenn Beck. And women are soft and emotionally fragile with spooky mood swings, like Glenn Beck. 6 in 10 Americans think illegal Mexicans should have a path to citizenship and be allowed to stay here. And the other 4 in 10 are illegal Mexicans. Now, I know that you teabaggers at home are already blogging. If Americans are like you, Bill, then how come the Republicans are going to take over the Congress? Well, first of all, thank you for watching. I know there's wrestling on another channel. And second, to answer your question, the Democrats will lose because A, they don't brag about their achievements, and B, they never get it that these days you have to sum up your message in one succinct phrase, like, we'll cut your taxes, or here's a photo of my penis. Which brings me to the one succinct phrase that could keep the Democrats in power in 2012. We will legalize pot. Wait. I'm not saying this just to get cheap applause, although I have achieved that goal. I'm saying it because reliable surveys tell us that there's only one thing that will rouse our precious youth to the voting booth, the way Jackass in 3D got them out to the theaters. And that's pot. It's the unwritten second half of Obama's slogan. Yes, we can get high at the mall. Now, in the legalization of marijuana, the Democrats finally could have something they have always wanted, a wedge issue. Remember wedge issues? Things like gay marriage and prayer in school and other bullshit that Republicans used for years to get hillbillies to the polls. That's how Bush got elected in 2004. You know this. It's a fact. Karl Rove put gay marriage on the ballot in 11 key states, knowing that all the Christian shit-kickers would come out against boys kissing and stick around to pull the lever for Bungles the Clown. Sorry.
Don't know him.
Now, nationwide, young people 18 to 29 are expected to make up just 6% of those voting in the midterms. 6%. I've seen more young people than that at Larry King's canasta parties.
What the hell is that?
But here in California, I actually have. But here in California, where the weed legalizing Proposition 19 is on the ballot, the kids are expected to make up 12% of the voters. Still pathetic, but to go from 6% to 12%, that's, well, I'm a little stoned right now, but a lot. All right, that's our show. I'm going to be at the Aronoff Center in Cincinnati tomorrow night, and then in Omaha, Nebraska at the Omaha Music Hall Sunday. I want to thank Jake Tapper, Rob Reiner, Nicole Wallace, Levi Johnson, George Clooney, and watch us now on Overtime at HBO.com. Thank you, folks. New rule, stop asking me to take a short survey about my customer satisfaction experience. You know, I'd love to help you improve your customer relations. It's just that A, I don't work for you, and B, I don't give a shit. You know, I was actually pretty happy with your customer service up to the point where you asked me to take a survey about your customer service. If it's going to be this much hassle to exchange a medium for a large, I'll buy my sex toys elsewhere. New rule, stop having porn conventions. You know, Trekkies have conventions. Stamp collectors have conventions. You're just a guy who masturbates a lot. That's not a hobby. You don't need to meet others who share your interest. What are you going to do, trade tips on how to avoid chafing? New rule, the Nobel Prize for Literature has to be renamed the Nobel Prize for a South American guy who you thought already won. This week, Mario Vargas Llosa was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, following in the footsteps of Pablo Neruda, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Octavio Paz, and at least 8 other guys you thought were Mario Vargas Llosa. The worst part, halfway through his acceptance speech, Kanye West ran out and said, "I'm going to let you finish, but Jorge Luis Borges was robbed." New rule, stop pretending that the coral dying in the Caribbean doesn't affect you. Let me put this in a way that real Americans can understand. When the coral dies, then fish have no place to spawn. And when fish have no place to spawn, we run out of fish. And when we run out of fish, Long John Silver's goes out of business. And then where are you going to take your mother for her birthday? New rule, now that we've rescued the Chilean miners from that hole, we must refill it with D-list celebrities and make it a reality show. And when Vanilla Ice gets in a fight with Ian Ziering and then turns to Charo and says, "Hey, I didn't come here to make friends," then reality shows can die. New rule, after all these years, someone must improve on the toilet. It looks the same as it did when Grover Cleveland sat on it. Come on, this is America. Where's my cup holder, flat screen, and Wi-Fi enabled toilet? So I can do my business in comfort while updating my Facebook page to, "I just ate Mexican food, yummy." New rule, if 6 million men and 17 million women who tried to join the Army last year were turned down for being too fat, it's time to let in the gays. Yes, they're immoral and they're going to hell, but at least they go to the gym. And finally, new rule, if you're a teabagger, you don't get to do Halloween this year. Because one, when you trick or treat, aren't you asking for a handout? Isn't that Marxism? Won't that cost you your freedom? And two, since you're all thinking it anyway, I might as well say it. At least one of you was already a witch. All right. Now, if I could, I would like to talk directly now to America's Tea Party patriots. So if you consider yourself among their numbers, I'd like you to lean a little closer to your television. Closer. Closer still. All the way in. Now, here's what I want to say. You're way too easily manipulated. And it's time now for you to take off the Ben Franklin wig, put down the sign that misspells the word Constitution, and reveal that what you were really dressed up as the whole time, corporate America's useful idiots. Tear off this benign-looking mask and gaze with horror upon the true face of the Tea Party. No, it's not the evil clown from the Saw movies. It's Karl Rove. Now, I can already hear the teabaggers complaining, "Are you high, Bill Maher?" Everyone knows Karl Rove is against the Tea Party. Okay, firstly, yes, I am high. And secondly, Karl Rove is using you people. Doesn't it ever seem a little weird that what you want and what billionaires want are exactly the same? Why do Tea Partiers want to preserve Bush's massive tax cuts for the richest 1%? Most teabaggers, their latest big purchase was a set of rims for their house. Tea Partiers, they're against estate taxes. Why? Trust me, Joe the plumber. When you die, Uncle Sam doesn't want the rusty Bowflex machine in your basement. Why is the Tea Party against health care reform? You ever seen a Tea Party rally? I've never seen so many people wheeling oxygen tanks. One match, and there goes Bill O'Reilly's entire audience. Why did Tea Party candidates criticize Obama for getting $20 billion out of BP for the Gulf spill? Obama was defending our waters from British business interest. If only there was some sort of historical precedent to latch onto. But, you know, to be in the Tea Party, you don't have to be smart, or kind, or even sane, or employed. You don't have to work your way up through local government. You don't have to own a suit or a razor. You can be a housewife or a recovering witch or any kind of street corner loon, just as long as one thing is sacred above all, that you hold the same basic beliefs as Steve Forbes. Now, in case Democrats and independents don't have enough motivation to get out there to the polls, let me offer a little Halloween message of what you should really be scared of. Yes, who can forget the fun-filled Congress of the late 90s, when a Republican majority decided it was a crime to be a Democratic president and devoted all of the resources and mighty machinery of our great nation to investigating a blowjob. And they were only half as crazy as this bunch that's coming in now. And Clinton was white. If you're going to have a rally where hundreds of thousands of people show up, you might as well go ahead and make it about something. Now, with all due respect to my friends John and Stephen, it seems to me that if you truly wanted to come down on the side of restoring sanity and reason, you'd side with the sane and the reasonable. And and not try to pretend that the insanity is equally distributed in both parties. Keith Olbermann is right when he says he's not the equivalent of Glenn Beck. One reports facts, the other one is very close to playing with his poop. And the big mistake of modern media has been this notion of balance for balance's sake, that the left is just as violent and cruel as the right, that unions are just as powerful as corporations, that reverse racism is just as damaging as racism. There's a difference between a madman and a madman. Now, getting over 200,000 people to come to a liberal rally is a great achievement that gave me hope. And what I really loved about it was that it was twice the size of the Glenn Beck crowd on the Mall in August. Although it weighed the same. But the message of the rally, as I heard it, was that if the media would just stop giving voice to the crazies on both sides, then maybe we could restore sanity. It was all nonpartisan and urged cooperation with the moderates on the other side, forgetting that Obama tried that and found out there are no moderates on the other side. When John announced his rally, he said that the national conversation is dominated by people on the right who believe Obama's a socialist and people on the left who believe 9/11 was an inside job. But I can't name any Democratic leaders who think 9/11 was an inside job. But Republican leaders who think Obama's a socialist? All of them. McCain, Boehner, Cantor, Palin, all of them. It's now official Republican dogma, like tax cuts pay for themselves and gay men just haven't met the right woman. As another example of both sides using overheated rhetoric, John cited the right equating Obama with Hitler and the left calling Bush a war criminal. Except thinking Obama is like Hitler is utterly unfounded, but thinking Bush is a war criminal, that's the opinion of General Anthony Tugaboo, who headed the Army's investigation into Abu Ghraib. Republicans keep staking out a position that is further and further right, and then demand Democrats meet them in the middle, which is now not the middle anymore. That's the reason health care reform is so watered down. It's Bob Dole's old plan from 1994. Same thing with cap and trade. It was the first President Bush's plan to deal with carbon emissions. Now the Republican plan for climate change is to claim it's a hoax. But it's not. I know that because I've lived in LA since '83, and there's been a change in the city. I can see it now. Yeah. All of us who live out here have had that experience. Oh, look, there's a mountain there. Governments led by liberal Democrats passed laws which changed the air I breathe for the better. Okay, I'm for them, and not for the party that is, as we speak, plotting to abolish the EPA. And I don't need to pretend that both sides have a point here, and I don't care what left or right commentators say about it. I only care what climate scientists say about it. Two opposing sides don't necessarily have two compelling arguments. Martin Luther King spoke on that mall in the Capitol, and he didn't say, remember, folks, those Southern sheriffs with the fire hoses and the German shepherds, they have a point, too. No, he said, I have a dream, they have a nightmare. This isn't Team Edward and Team Jacob. Liberals, like the ones on that field, must stand up and be counted and not pretend that we're as mean or greedy or short-sighted or just plain batshit as they are. And if that's too polarizing for you and you still want to reach across the aisle and hold hands and sing with someone on the right, try church. New rule: with the Super Bowl only a week away, Americans must realize what makes NFL football so great. Socialism. That's right. The NFL takes money from the rich teams and gives it to the poorer ones, just like President Obama wants to do with his secret army of Acorn volunteers. Green Bay, Wisconsin has a population of 100,000, yet this sleepy little town on the banks of the Fuck-if-I-Know River has just as much of a chance of making it to the Super Bowl as the New York Jets, who next year need to just shut the hell up and play. Now, me personally, I haven't watched the Super Bowl since 2004, when Janet Jackson's nipple popped out during halftime, and that split-second glimpse of an unrestrained black titty burned my eyes. And offended me as a Christian. But I get it. Who doesn't love the spectacle of juiced-up millionaires giving each other brain damage? On a giant flat-screen TV with a picture so real it feels like Ben Roethlisberger is in your living room, grabbing your sister. So it's no surprise that some 100 million Americans will watch the Super Bowl next week. That's 40 million more than go to church on Christmas. Suck on that, Jesus. It's also 85 million more than watch the last game of the World Series. And in that is an economic lesson for America. Because football is built on an economic model of fairness and opportunity. And baseball is built on a model where the rich always win and the poor usually have no chance. The World Series is like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You have to be a rich bitch just to play. Whereas the Super Bowl is like Tila Tequila. Anyone can get in. Or to put it another way, football is more like the Democratic philosophy. Democrats don't want to eliminate capitalism or competition, but they would like it if some kids didn't have to go to a crummy school in a rotten neighborhood, while others get to go to a great school, and their dad gets them into Harvard. Because when that happens, achieving the American dream is easy for some and just a fantasy for others. That's why the NFL literally shares the wealth. TV is their biggest source of revenue, and they put it all in a big commie pot and split it 32 ways. Because they don't want anyone to fall too far behind. That's why the team that wins the Super Bowl in the next draft picks last, or what the Republicans would call punishing success. Baseball, on the other hand, is exactly like the Republicans. And I don't just mean it's incredibly boring. I mean their economic theory is every man for himself. The small market Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Super Bowl more than anybody. But the Pittsburgh Pirates? Levi Johnston has sperm that will not grow up and live long enough to see the Pirates in a World Series. Their payroll is 40 million. The Yankees is 206 million. The Pirates have about as much chance as getting to the playoffs as a poor black teenager from Newark has of becoming the CEO of Halliburton. That's why people stop going to Pirate games in May. Because if you're not in the game, you become indifferent to the fate of the game and maybe even get bitter. That's what's happening to the middle class in America. It's also how Marie Antoinette lost her head. So you kind of have to laugh that the same angry white males who hate Obama because he's redistributing wealth just love football, a sport that succeeds because it does just that. To them, the NFL is American as hot dog, Chevrolet, apple pie, and a second giant helping of apple pie. But then again, they think they're macho because their sport is football, when honestly, is there anything gayer than wearing another man's shirt? And finally, new rule, if you think Michelle Obama is after your freedom because she merely suggests that our kids should exercise more and eat a little broccoli along with their lard, you don't deserve a place in the free market of ideas. You belong at the Cheesecake Factory. She's not Stalin because she notices your kids sweat Mountain Dew. Now, this is bigger than America's ass. I know that's hard to believe, but indulge me. This is about the teabaggers' fundamental misunderstanding of the difference between freedom and the freedom to never be told anything, like avoid food served in a bucket. It's just a tradition that first ladies get to pick some mundane, up until now non-controversial, cause to promote. Lady Bird Johnson, beautifying America. Barbara Bush had literacy. Betty Ford's was no hard liquor before 10 a.m. Our last First Lady, Laura Bush, worked tirelessly against illiteracy. So between her efforts and her husband's, it was a tie. Hillary Clinton did pioneering work in looking the other way. I'm just saying, if your husband can convince you that the bra in the bed probably fell in at the mattress factory, you can overlook Hosni Mubarak. Now, when I look at a moon pie, I just see sugar and trans fat, not my constitutional freedoms. But Sarah Palin recently brought sugar cookies to a school as a protest against the government telling the school what to eat, which, of course, it wasn't doing. Sean Hannity warned that we'd soon be paying fines for eating salt, which isn't a problem for Hannity, who mostly eats boogers. When did the right wing become Joe Pesci over every little thing? You saying I use too much salt? What, am I salty to you? Fuck you, I use too much salt. Here, take some salt right down your throat. I mean, 40 years ago, when Lady Bird Johnson suggested we plant wildflowers to beautify the highways, the reaction was, sounds like a neat idea. Not, don't tell me what I can plant, bitch. Matt Drudge promoted a story saying pedestrian deaths were way up because the evil one, Michelle Obama, had encouraged people to walk more. Directly into traffic. Those were her exact words, walk into traffic. Now, I'm not saying the right objects to Mrs. Obama's efforts because the teabaggers are stupid or because they're hysterical or because they hate black people, though all of that is true. But what does it say about America that even a First Lady suggestion has to be controversial? Especially when she purposely picked something no one could disagree with. Maybe we should send our kids outside to play. Well, you know who else liked to send people places? Hitler. Oh, yeah. I mean, Rush Limbaugh makes a crack about this every week. Because who better to get your health advice from than a drug-addicted fat man? Rush, I have proof that no one in the government is forcing you to eat right and exercise. You! And finally, new rule. The problem isn't that there's too little civility in government. It's that there's too much. President Obama's State of the Union speech is next week, and as you've probably heard, members of Congress have agreed, in response to the tragedy in Arizona, to break with the tradition of Republicans on one side of the room and Democrats on the other. Instead, they're all going to sit together. Conservative next to liberal, gay next to straight, nerd next to jock. Oh, wait, that was an episode of Glee. In any event, the two parties are coming together and they've agreed Joe Lieberman has to sit by himself. Now, I must say, America is such a mystery to me. A lunatic uses a Glock to shoot 19 people, and our answer is, don't try to control guns or nuts, just be more polite. Now, I'm just a hockey mom, but it seems to me when a madman kills people, the problem isn't the First Amendment, it's the Second. In his big speech, President Obama said we should do everything we can to make sure this country lives up to our children's expectations. The first of which, I'm guessing, would be to live in a country where children don't get shot when they leave the house. That's what's important. Who gives a damn if politicians mask their disdain for each other with forced niceties? They do it already. My good friend from the great state of Alabama. As if they're really good friends, or anyone outside Alabama thinks it's a great state. Oh, it's a love fest these days. Conservatives couldn't stop praising Obama's speech. Of course, because it let them off the hook. The party of assault weapons didn't get blamed for the assault, just like the party of oil didn't get blamed for the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Like the party of deregulation skated on tanking the economy. Again and again, Obama is given the opportunity to lay some richly deserved blame at the feet of the Republicans, and again, he just can't do it because he wants them to like him so badly. Conservatives, stop worrying. He can't be a Kenyan. He's a golden retriever. He's done everything he possibly could to appease you, short of using bleach. And when Obama says, find common ground, oh, here comes the bullshit now. Because whenever a Democrat seeks common ground, he always seems to find it right where the Republican was already standing. 10 years ago, we had a ban on extended ammo clips so that people like this walking Thorazine ad couldn't kill supermarket crowds hassle-free. The Republicans killed that ban, and now the compromise is we can never get it back. I think the old word for that was surrender. Republicans, please note, are not taken in by the myth of common ground. They never move an inch on anything. Gun restrictions are always bad, taxes are always too high, and there's nothing on earth that can't be improved by adding either Jesus or bacon. Sarah Palin knows fewer words than Coco the gorilla. But it's not a coincidence that two of them are don't retreat and the other is reload. New rule, when the news story about record home foreclosures is followed immediately by the story about Victoria's Secret new $2 million jewel-encrusted bra, maybe it is time for redistributing the wealth. This is a bra that contains 1,542 carats of white diamonds, blue sapphires, and blue topaz set in 18-carat white gold. And yet it's still an eyesore when you leave it hanging over the shower rod. New rule, when we talk about the danger of loose nukes, we have to be talking about another country. Recently, our Air Force lost complete command and control of 50 ICBMs in its nuclear arsenal, which they insist were stolen by Charlie Sheen's hooker. Folks, we need this cleared up by 2012 when President Sarah Palin and Vice President Todd Palin and Secretary of State Ted Nugent decide that sanctions have failed and we need to take immediate military action to prevent the growing threat from Massachusetts. New rule, just because you're the mayor and your team is in the World Series doesn't mean you have to make some horseshit bet with the other city's mayor, where you make him breakfast or eat 1,000 chicken wings or let him watch your wife in the shower. You're the mayor, not man-cow. And your team doesn't give a crap about Texas chili or San Francisco crab cakes or Cleveland steamers. Because they're all Dominican. New rule, the next politician who says reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated must be killed. And buried with a tombstone that reads, reports of my demise were 100% accurate. New rule, stop making it so hard to kill people. States now can't execute prisoners because there's a shortage of the lethal injection drug. Is this really that difficult? Just give them what Michael Jackson had. Come on, this is America. Everybody has something in their medicine cabinet that can kill you. Hell, we have eggs that can kill you. New rule, there doesn't have to be an app for everything. Researchers are developing a cell phone app they say will diagnose STDs on the spot. So while you're downloading The Clash, you can get tested for the clap. Of course, the hard part isn't making your lovers understand the importance of safe sex. It's getting them to pee on your iPhone. New rule, if you have a TV remote built right into your couch pillow, they have such a thing. You also have to be fitted for an adult diaper and a feeding tube. So you may never have to make any effort whatsoever to do anything. I know it seems like a good idea, a remote in your pillow so it never gets lost, but then the dog humps it and changes the channel. And finally, new rule, if your wife says, hurry up, we're going to be late for our Valentine's dinner, and you reply, just a minute, honey, I'm almost done masturbating, you might have a porn problem. Now, I bring this up because there is a crisis in America. A full 91% of men can no longer get an erection without hearing this sound. Now, I made that statistic up because statistics on porn are hard to come by, mainly because when you do a Google search for them, you wind up looking at porn. And suddenly it's 3 hours later and the dog is starving. But it is true that in far too many marriages these days, the husband comes home from work and goes straight to the den to look at porn, while the poor wife is alone upstairs. And between him masturbating at the keyboard and her crying herself to sleep, who can keep that much Kleenex in the house? Because, sir, you need... Well, I know what you're thinking. Bill Maher, anti-porn? That's like the Pope being anti-wearing a dress. No, I'm not anti-porn. I'm just saying masturbation has its place. And that place should be Plan B, when you can't get the real thing. For me, that was college. It filled... Oh, truly, it filled the hole in me when I had no hole to fill. But now, psychologists are telling us that for a sizable percentage of men in America, masturbating to porn is Plan A, and doing it with your wife or girlfriend is more like a fallback option for when the power goes out. What's worse, when someone spends 12 hours a day looking at porn, you build up a tolerance, and you need more to get the same high. You literally jack yourself into a corner. So you move on to fetish sites, and then weird Japanese porn, where a schoolgirl is being molested on a bullet train by Godzilla, and before you know it, you're into the stuff that Germans like. Horrifying, slimy, violent ideas punctuated by the sounds of womanly sobbing. Like an interview with John Boehner. And to be honest about our porn addiction, it's not that Americans are oversexed. It's that we're catastrophically lazy. We'd rather sit on the sofa and show our wing-wang to strangers on chat roulette than go schlep out to hula hands and try to pick up a secretary who's had one too many Mai Tais. We've become a nation of cooch potatoes. Really? Guys are home like, hey, I'm getting action. I don't even have to brush my teeth. Real, actual sex? Not tonight, honey. I'm horny. I mean, it's pretty amazing. For men, it took only a couple of decades between discovering that women can have orgasms and deciding that giving them one is just too much trouble. New rule, stop telling me to have a safe flight. Like I have some control over that. Thanks, and you don't get struck by lightning. New rule, now that the Army is letting in gays and lesbians, Glee has to add at least one character who's straight. Just for variety. I mean, my memories of high school are kind of fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure not every single human being in the building was gay. Television has an obligation to present America as it really is. 10% gay, 10% Real Housewife, and 70% vampire. New rule, movie trailers have to stop indicating a comic reversal of fortune with the sound of a record scratch. Because no one has scratched a record since 1985. For 26 years now, has only been the sound of Owen Wilson losing his girlfriend, his job, and getting his dick caught in a car door. The record scratch is so obsolete, the thing that made it obsolete, CDs, is obsolete. However, you can still keep using James Brown's I Feel Good for the part where Owen Wilson inherits a pet store and sings into a hairbrush, because that never gets old. New rule, the Marines who have reportedly been getting liposuction to avoid getting a demerit for not passing the Pentagon's body fat test have to take the sucked-out fat with them after the procedure. Because as a Marine, remember, you never leave someone's behind. New rule, if you ever really want Americans to sign up for Obamacare, you have to change the 4 levels from platinum, gold, silver, and bronze to creamy, chunky, Cool Ranch, and honey mustard. New rule, if you would rather give up sex for a year than give up your morning cup of coffee, you really need to tell me where you're getting your coffee. According to a new survey, 78% of travelers say they choose coffee over sex, which is a clear sign of either two things. Either the hotels are adding meth to the coffee, or call girls really need to pick up their game. New rule, the Michigan optometrist accused of calling a female patient into his office and then taking out his penis and masturbating has to not do that anymore. Please, Doc, it's uncomfortable enough when you just put those drops in our eyes. Plus, you of all people should know doing that can make you go blind.